Like we share a house, a life. But we don't really talk about how we feel. Adam rinsed his mouth and leaned against the sink. Sometimes, yeah. But I figured we were just comfortable. Claire nodded. Maybe too comfortable. He looked at her. Claire, is something going on? She hesitated. Then said softly, I saw Noah. Silence fell between them. I had a feeling, Adam admitted. You've been different, distant. I didn't plan it. He reached out. I met him for coffee. Then lunch. I just needed answers, and did you get them? She swallowed hard. Some. Adam was quiet for a long time. Then he spoke, his voice calm but honest. Do you still love him? I don't know. The answer hung heavy in the air. Adam nodded slowly. Well, if you figure it out, I want to know, because I love you, and I want us to be okay. But I don't want to be your second choice. Claire felt tears rise. You're not. You never were. I feel lost. I'd rather hear that than be lied to, he said gently. That night, they didn't sleep close. Not out of anger, but because the space between them needed to be acknowledged. Claire lay awake, her heart torn in two. On one side, there was a life she built, solid, real, dependable. On the other, there was a flame she thought had burned out, now suddenly glowing again. She didn't know which path was right, but she knew the decision couldn't wait much longer. The days after Claire's talk with Adam were slow and heavy. Every quiet moment felt louder, every conversation more careful. They still had dinner together, still shared the same bed, but the warmth between them had cooled. Not out of anger, more like distance. Claire could feel Adam watching her differently now, as if waiting for a sign, hoping she'd say something that would make it all go back to normal. But normal was gone. Claire stayed away from her phone most of the time. She didn't text Noah, didn't call, didn't even check to see if he'd messaged again. She was scared that seeing his name would tip the scale. She didn't trust herself to be objective anymore. Her heart was too loud, her mind too restless. At the studio, she tried to lose herself in painting. Her students noticed her distraction, little kids asking if she was sad. Older women offering soft smiles without asking questions. She appreciated the silence more than the sympathy then. On a quiet Wednesday afternoon, Claire walked into the guest room she rarely used. She pulled out an old box from the closet. Inside were bits of her past photos, letters, concert tickets. At the very bottom was a small envelope with Noah's handwriting. A note he had written on their last trip together right before he left for California. Whatever happens next, I want you to remember no one's ever seen me the way you do. That's not something I'll forget. Claire sat on the edge of the bed and let the tears come. Not loud sobs. Just a steady stream of sadness, regret, and longing. She realized then that she wasn't just missing Noah, was missing a version of herself. The version who used to feel deeply, who believed in wild love, who wasn't afraid of change. That night, after Adam had gone to bed, Claire went outside with a blanket and sat on the back porch. The air was cool, the stars faint through scattered clouds. She opened her phone and found Noah's last message. I'll be leaving soon. I just wanted you to know. If you ever wonder, I never stopped waiting for a sign. She stared at the screen for a long time, then slowly typed a reply. Where are you? He responded almost instantly. Still in town? Until Friday. Claire didn't reply. She just sat there, heart pounding. The next morning, she told Adam she needed time to think. She didn't say where she was going. He didn't ask. He only said, okay, and walked away with his shoulders lower than she'd ever seen them. Claire met Noah at the lake one they used to visit when they were younger. He was standing near the water, hands in his pockets, looking like he didn't expect her to actually come. But when he saw her, he smiled. Not the smile of someone who had one, but the kind that comes from relief. I wasn't sure you'd show up, he said. Neither was I, she replied. They sat on the edge of the dock. Legs dangling above the water, Claire took a breath. I don't know what I'm doing. You don't have to, Noah said gently. There's no pressure. I'm married, she said. mostly to remind herself, I know, I love him. I believe you. But I loved you too, she added, eyes fixed on the water. Noah nodded slowly. I loved you first. I probably always will, but I'm not here to pull you away. I just needed to be honest. I needed to let you know I never forgot us. Claire looked at him, searching his face for something solid. She didn't know what she expected, maybe a reason to leave everything, or maybe a reason to stay. But Noah didn't offer either. Just honesty. Why didn't you come back sooner? She asked. I didn't think you wanted me to, he said. And when I found out you married Adam, I figured that was my answer. Claire sighed. It was easier to move forward than face what I felt. And now I feel like I'm standing between two lives. They sat in silence. Wind blew through the trees and small ripples formed on the lake's surface. I'm leaving tomorrow, Noah said. This isn't fair to you. Or Adam. Claire nodded. I know, but I'll always be a phone call away, he added. If you ever need me, even if it's just as a friend. Claire smiled, but it was a sad one. You were never just a friend. I should go. Noah stood too. Goodbye, Claire. Goodbye, Noah. They didn't hug. They didn't kiss. They just looked at each other for a moment longer, and then she walked away. Back home, Adam was on the porch, waiting. His eyes met hers the moment she stepped out of the car. I went to see him, she said before he could ask. He nodded, hurt flickering in his eyes, and I said goodbye. Adam let out a long breath. But he didn't look relieved, just uncertain. I can't promise I won't still think about him, Claire said. But I didn't leave. I came back, and that has to mean something. Adam stepped forward. It means everything. That night, they didn't pretend. They talked. Really talked. About their fears, their distance, and the cracks that had slowly grown between them. Claire told him how she missed passion. Adam told her he missed her honesty. They agreed to try again, but differently. More openly. More truthfully. Not to erase the past, but to grow from it. For the first time in a long while, Claire felt something settle in her chest. Not excitement. Not regret. Just clarity. She chose the life she built. But she would never again let herself forget who she had been, because both versions of her mattered. Claire Morgan lived in a quiet Vermont town with her husband Adam. Their life was calm, structured, and safe. Adam worked as an accountant, always home by 6, dinner at 7, asleep by 10. Claire ran a small art studio from home, mostly teaching painting to kids and retired neighbors. From the outside, everything looked steady and good. But inside Claire's heart, something had been missing for a while. She didn't know when the feeling began. Maybe it was after her father passed. Maybe it was on one of those long silent dinners where Adam scrolled through his phone instead of asking about her day. Or maybe it had always been there, buried deep under comfort and routine. Then, on Thursday afternoon, Claire received a message that shook her entire world. Hey Claire, it's been a long time. I'm in town. Can we talk? Noah, her breath caught. Noah, the name brought back a rush of feelings she thought were long gone. It had been 10 years since they'd seen each other. A whole decade since the man who once held her heart had left for California. And never looked back. Claire stared at the screen. She read the message again, her hands trembling slightly. She hadn't even heard his name in years. Not since the wedding where Adam nervously joked at least he didn't show up. Back then, Claire had smiled, played along, and pushed the past away. But Noah had been important. More than that, he had been everything once. They met in college. She was studying fine arts. He was majoring in film. He'd always carried a camera and saw the world like a scene in motion. She loved how he noticed details, like how the light hit her hair. Or how her laugh sounded different when she was nervous. They had big dreams and even bigger feelings. Everyone around them believed they were meant to last. But after graduation, Noah landed a job in Los Angeles. A dream project. A chance he couldn't refuse. They tried long distance, but it didn't survive the miles or the silence that eventually followed. He didn't cheat. He didn't lie. He just faded out slowly, painfully, until one day, the calls stopped. And then Adam came along. Adam, who had been Noah's roommate in college. Who stayed behind? Who helped Claire after her breakup? Who showed her consistency when she was drowning in uncertainty? She didn't plan to fall in love with Adam, but she did. Or at least she convinced herself she did. And she'd spent the last 8 years building a life with him. So why? Now, after all this time, did a single message from Noah make her feel like she couldn't breathe? She didn't respond right away. She made tea, walked around the house, tried to shake it off. But the feeling stayed. Later that night, Adam came home with takeout. He talked about work, the new intern, and how the heater in his office kept making a buzzing noise. Claire nodded and smiled, but her thoughts were elsewhere. She watched his face carefully, the same kind eyes, the gentle voice, and wondered how she was supposed to feel. She should feel safe, grateful, but she didn't feel alive. When Adam went to bed, Claire sat on the edge of the couch, the message still open on her phone. Finally, with a deep breath, she typed a simple reply. Hi, Noah. It really has been a long time. When and where? The next morning, she met him at a small cafe just outside town, one where no one would recognize her. She told Adam she had a student meeting. She hated lying, but she couldn't bring herself to explain the truth yet. She wasn't even sure what the truth was. Noah was already sitting at a corner table when she arrived. He stood up as soon as he saw her, and for a second, neither of them spoke. He looked older. Not in a bad way, just different. A few lines around the eyes, a little less boyish, but still Noah, still the same quiet energy. Still the same gaze that once made her feel like the only person in the room. Claire, he said softly. She nodded. Hi. They sat down. The silence was thick at first, filled with everything they hadn't said in 10 years. I didn't think you'd answer, he admitted. I almost didn't. I deserved that. Claire looked at him, her heart pounding. Why now? Noah paused, choosing his words carefully. I came back to visit my sister. She lives upstate now. But honestly, I wanted to see you. I thought maybe, I don't know, maybe we could talk. I've had a lot of time to think, Claire, about you, about how I left. She sipped her tea, trying to keep her hands steady. You didn't say goodbye. I know. And I've regretted it every day. Claire didn't know what to say. Her emotions were pulling in too many directions. She felt angry, sad, curious, alive. I'm married now, she said, her voice quiet. I know, Noah replied, not looking away. To Adam. She nodded slowly. He's good to me. I'm sure he is. Another silence. But this one wasn't empty. It was full of all the memories they both carried, memories that time hadn't erased. I'm not here to cause trouble, Noah finally said. I just needed to see you and tell you. I never stopped thinking about what we had. Claire looked away, her eyes stinging. This wasn't what she wanted. Or maybe it was. She didn't know anymore. She stood up quickly. I have to go. Noah didn't stop her. He just nodded. Okay. As she walked out of the cafe, her heart raced. She didn't look back. Back at home, Adam was watching TV. He greeted her with a smile, asking about her student. Claire smiled back, her voice steady. But inside, everything was changing. Something had been stirred awake, something she thought was long buried, and now she had no idea what came next. Claire couldn't sleep that night. She lay beside Adam, staring at the ceiling, her thoughts spinning. She kept replaying Noah's voice in her head, the way he looked at her, like no time had passed, like the years hadn't touched what they once shared. But a lot had changed. She was married now, a different woman with a different life. And yet, the moment she saw him, part of her felt like the girl he left behind. The next morning, Claire tried to go about her usual routine. Coffee, morning emails, a walk with her neighbor, Janet. But nothing felt normal. She kept hearing his words. I never stopped thinking about what we had. Back in her studio, she pulled out an old sketchbook, one she hadn't opened in years. Between pages filled with landscapes and flowers, she found a sketch of Noah's face. She had drawn it during their second year of college. His eyes were closed, like he was resting. That memory came back like a wave, a rainy afternoon, soft music. And his hand in hers, she closed the book. That afternoon, Noah texted again. "I'm not trying to make things hard for you. I just want to say goodbye properly. Lunch. One last time." Claire stared at the message for a long time. She shouldn't go. She knew that. But her fingers typed before her thoughts could stop them. Okay, just lunch. They met at a quiet diner outside town. It was small, private, and safe. Noah stood when she walked in, offering a smile that didn't push too hard. "I wasn't sure you'd come," he said. "Neither was I," she replied. They talked like old friends at first. He told her about his work in film production, the places he'd traveled, the people he'd met. She shared bits about the art studio, how the town had changed, how her mom still sent postcards every month even though she only lived an hour away. But eventually, the conversation turned personal. "Do you love him?" Noah asked, his tone soft. Claire looked down at her hands. "Yes, I do. But it's different." "How?" "It's quiet, comfortable, safe, and with me." He asked. She didn't answer right away. "With you, it was wild, uncertain, but it made me feel alive." Noah reached across the table, not to touch her, just to be closer. "That's how I felt too." Claire's heart pounded. She had dreamed of this moment so many times back when she thought he'd come back for her. Back when she cried herself to sleep, wondering what she'd done wrong. But now, with him sitting right in front of her, it felt more complicated than ever. "I used to hate you," she whispered. "I hated myself," Noah replied. "Why didn't you say goodbye?" "Because I didn't know how. I was scared. I told myself it was easier for you if I disappeared. It wasn't. I know that now." They've finished lunch, walking out into the early autumn air. The wind had a bite to it, leaves crunching underfoot. "I'll be leaving in a few days," Noah said. "Back to California." Claire nodded. "Okay." He looked at her one last time. "If this is the last time we see each other, I just want you to know I never stopped loving you. I tried to forget. I really did. But nothing ever felt the same." She didn't respond. Not with words. Just silence. That night she returned home to Adam's smile. He had made her favorite tomato soup and grilled cheese. They sat on the couch watching TV, but her mind was far away. She wanted to shake it off, return to her normal life. But something had cracked open when Adam reached for her hand. She held it, not out of habit, but out of guilt. Her heart was full of confusion, and she hated the feeling. Over the next few days, Claire kept to herself. She didn't reply to Noah again. She thought if she stayed quiet, it would all fade. But it didn't. Instead, she started noticing everything around her differently. She saw how Adam always played it safe, how he didn't ask deep questions, how their conversations had become more about schedules and groceries than dreams and feelings. But she also saw his goodness, his loyalty, the way he always picked up her favorite tea without being asked, the way he quietly warmed her car on cold mornings. He was a good man, but was good enough. One evening, they were brushing their teeth, standing side by side like they always did. Claire suddenly looked at him, really looked. "Do you ever feel like we stopped talking?" she asked. Adam looked surprised. "What do you mean?" A week had passed since Claire last saw Noah. Vermont's leaves had started to turn golden, and the crisp air carried a quiet stillness. She walked through her studio with a different energy now, more present, but still searching. The goodbye? With Noah hadn't ended her confusion, but it had opened something in her, the need to live with more intention. She and Adam were trying. They ate dinner without their phones. They went on walks together again, even if the conversation was still a little strained. Claire didn't pretend everything was perfect. She told him when she was feeling off. He listened more now, really listened. But underneath their effort, a question lingered like a shadow. Was love enough when the spark was fading? On a cool Sunday morning, Claire sat at the kitchen table with a notebook. She made 2 columns, one for Adam, one for Noah. It felt silly at first, like something out of a magazine quiz. But it helped her focus. Under Adam, she wrote, steady, loyal, safe, kind, honest. Makes me feel cared for. Under Noah, she wrote, wild, emotional, deep. Unfinished, makes me feel alive. She stared at the list for a long time. Her eyes kept going back to that last word, unfinished. That was what had haunted her for years. The lack of closure. The what if. But closure didn't always mean going back. Sometimes it meant accepting the past for what it was and letting it stay there. Claire took a deep breath, closed the notebook, and got in her car. She drove to the lake where she and Noah had said goodbye. The dock was empty, the water still. She sat alone thinking about the girl she was when she fell in love with him, the hopeful dreamer who believed in forever. Who believed love would conquer all. She loved that girl. She wasn't her anymore. Claire pulled out her phone and typed a message to Noah. She kept it short, honest. Thank you for reminding me who I was. I needed that. But I'm choosing the life I've built with gratitude, not regret. She hit send and watched the message deliver. No typing bubbles appeared. No instant reply. And that was okay. Later that evening, Claire cooked dinner, her turn. She lit candles, poured 2 glasses of wine, and waited for Adam to come home. When he walked through the door and saw her, he paused, surprised. This looks nice, he said. She smiled. I wanted us to talk. They sat down and ate quietly for a few minutes before Claire spoke. I've been doing a lot of thinking, she said, and I realized I've been holding parts of myself back. Not just because of Noah, but for years. I shut down dreams. I stopped asking big questions. I made myself small, even though you never asked me to. Adam looked at her, serious but open. I want us to grow again, Claire continued, not just go through the motions. I want to feel connected, not out of routine, but choice. I want that too, Adam said. I know I've gotten comfortable, maybe even lazy. I stopped, asking how you were really feeling because I thought silence meant everything was okay. Claire reached for his hand. Let's promise to stop doing that. He nodded, deal. Over the next few weeks, they made small changes. They planned a weekend trip to Maine, just the 2 of them. They started a journal they passed back and forth, where they wrote each other short letters every few days. Some were sweet, some were hard truths. But all of them were real. One night Claire wrote, I used to think passion only came in chaos. But I'm learning that deep love can be quiet, steady, and just as powerful. Thank you for holding space while I figured that out. Adam replied the next morning. Thank you for not walking away, and for showing me that love needs attention, not just time. The changes didn't happen overnight. Some days were harder than others. There were moments when Claire still thought of Noah, not with longing, but with acceptance. He had been a part of her story, an important one. But not the ending. Months passed. Winter came. The holidays brought snow, family, laughter. Claire's studio grew busier, and she started painting again, not just for others, but for herself. She even signed up for an art retreat out west, something she would have never done a year ago. Adam supported her, drove her to the airport, kissed her forehead, and said, "Come back inspired." She did. By spring, something had shifted between them. Not a return to the old version of their relationship, but the start of something new. It wasn't about going back. It was about growing forward. Together. One afternoon, while cleaning out the attic, Claire found an old photo of her and Noah tucked into a book. She smiled at it not with sadness, but with gratitude. She placed it back in the box and kept moving. She had made her choice. She chose the life that wasn't always easy, but was rooted in trust, care, and a deeper kind of love. The kind that stays when it's hard. The kind that grows when it's watered. It's the kind that doesn't burn like fire, but warms like sunlight. Claire wasn't the same woman who waited for Noah to call. She was stronger now, braver, more honest with herself. And as she stood in the dead, Doorway of her studio, watching Adam bring her a cup of coffee, she realized this was what real love looked like. Not a perfect story, but a true one.